Welcome. In front of me is a HUAWEI Nova 14 Pro, and today I will show you how you can enable and set up your portable hotspot on this device. So to get started, you will want to swipe down from the top right side of the screen, so right over here, which will bring down your toggles, and in this window specifically you want to swipe down on it, which will extend it. Now in here we're looking for the personal hotspot toggle. For me this is right over here, but if you can't find it in this list, you can add it by clicking right here on this box next to the settings and then selecting edit switches. And from there, the list right here below are toggles that are not added, so we can drag them over to the list above to add them permanently. And you want to hold them first, it gets lifted, and you can see now we can drag it around. So drag it over to the top right here, click on done, and you can see this timer toggle is now added here. So once you have your hotspot added in here, we're going to hold this hotspot toggle, and this will quickly take us to the settings. Now, reason for navigating into the settings is this awful password. I click on this and just straight up get rid of it. This is not a fun password to even try to type in, so getting rid of it is the easiest way. And then set up your own new password, which will need to have at least 8 characters in length. Now that can be letters, numbers, doesn't matter. I chose numbers only for simplicity purposes, such as my memory, so it's just going to be easier for me. From there, click on OK. And it does give you the thing. This password can be easily guessed. For security, please choose a different one. Well, see, might be easily guessed, but that means that I can also easily guess it. So I'm going to use it anyway. It's not like hotspot is going to be running permanently, so this is something that's going to be turned on occasionally, and I don't really care if the password is hard or not. It could be super easy, as long as I can just quickly connect to it whenever I need it and be done with it and turn it off. It doesn't matter that much. Now, under more, we have some other options, for instance, data limit. Now, depending on your service provider, what kind of plan you have, you might have a cap on how many gigabytes of data you have on your mobile phone, right? And in this case, you might want to set up some kind of data limit right here. Now, you can go from no limit and then through a couple of the presets as well as select a custom one. And I do recommend setting one up if you have some kind of data cap. I don't, so I can't care less about this. Now next we have the AP band, which is set to 2.4, and we also have a 5 gigahertz option. For majority of the people, I will just recommend changing, or not changing, but keeping it at 2.4. The only time I would ever recommend maybe changing it to the 5 gigahertz is maybe into the future, once we start getting like 100 megabit mobile network speeds. And also if you live in a heavily dense area, or dense as in a heavily populated area. The reason for that populated area, typically there is a shitload of 2.4 gigahertz signals around that will basically be interfering with one another. So in this case, if you try to 2.4 and it just struggles for some reason, disconnects, or just has some kind of weird wonkiness to it that you didn't experience before, you could try the 5 gigahertz one and see if that solves your problem. Now, the reason I recommend keeping it at the 2.4 is because this signal will actually be used by any device that has Wi-Fi connectivity will use it. So there is like no kind of problem with connectivity to it other than the like populated areas that just, there's too many of these signals. Well, the 5 gigahertz one will be much better for the crowded network. It introduces a bigger problem, which is newer devices that supports 5 gigahertz will be able to connect to it. But any other device that just does not support this frequency will straight up not see the hotspot that you will turn on at all. So if you have like an older laptop and you're trying to connect to this hotspot with, it might not support it. And in this case, you would have to go back here and change it back to 2.4. So for kind of connectivity simplicity, the 2.4 is just easier to stick with. And because mobile networks don't have, unlimited kind of bandwidths and for certain regions, and also the speeds of them are in hundreds of megabits, but more like tens of megabits. The 5 gigahertz kind of loses its value, and the only one that it has is, like I mentioned, with the crowded cities where there's a lot of signals. And to kind of give you like an example, what's the difference between these is the 2.4. You can imagine like a intersection filled with retards that don't know how to drive, and it's just basically a traffic. While the 5 gigahertz is a highway, a 3-lane highway that is smoothly moving forward. So that's kind of what you can imagine the network being like. So anyway, I'm going to be sticking with the 2.4 as, for instance, on my end, my service provider max speed that I can have is 60 megabits, which 2.4 is well incapable of delivering. So I don't really have much of a problem with that. And because, it makes it easier to connect with older devices, I'm just going to stick with that. Now, one last thing in here is the mobile hotspot turn off timer. Now, this one is the shitty one, I'm not going to lie, as it's the inactivity period. So after 5 minutes of inactivity, your hotspot will automatically turn itself off. Now, you can change this, and I probably would recommend changing it to 10 minutes, as 5 minutes, let's be honest, is a little bit too short, which is what she said. And generally, the reason I recommend changing it to higher time right here, or just maybe even turning it off, is because the inactivity period just implies that you still might be using your hotspot, but the device isn't sending new data to your, for instance, laptop again. So a scenario, as an example, you open up a long article, single page, just continue scrolling. You open it up. It takes you more than 10 minutes to read it, or more than 5 minutes, depending on which option you have. And you're still using it. You're still clearly reading that article. But the way this works is when you navigate to that website with the article, when you click on it, the hotspot on this phone will load it up instantly, basically. And after it loads it entirely. And from there, it just kind of sits idly. So the moment it loads that article, it automatically kicks in the timer. So it's going to automatically start a 10-minute, 5-minute timer. And if it takes you longer to read that entire page than 5 or 10 minutes, your hotspot will be off by the time you're done, which is pretty stupid. Now, the reason I'm pointing that out, that it's stupid, is because there are other devices that do it better, which is by disconnecting from your hotspot. So when there's no devices connected, it will then turn off. Now, that is the better option. Here, unfortunately, we don't have that. This is Huawei, after all. So either set to 10 or off, though off is, again, also a bad option, as hotspot does consume more of your phone's battery. And if you're still or if you're actually done using it, it will run indefinitely in the background, wasting battery. So again, that's not the greatest option either. So in reality, there is no great option here. So you just have to pick one of the shitty ones that you have. And once everything is set up, you can close this up like I just did. And then whenever you want to connect to your hotspot, just find the toggle and tap on it to turn it on. Now, with the way it's set for me, it is going to automatically turn itself off after 10 minutes right now. But obviously, I can do that myself by just tapping on a toggle once again. And also, if you turn off the auto timer, then you will need to remember to do this. Otherwise, it will run indefinitely in the background. And like I mentioned, waste your battery. So anyway, with that being said, I hope you found this very helpful. And if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.